Hello, everyone. Welcome to Artists in Sight, where we spotlight some of the best visual artists in the Kansas City metro area. My name is Brian Vole, and I'm the local arts librarian for Johnson County Library. Our mission for Artists in Sight is to share conversations with artists about their work, their background, and what inspires them. Artists in Sight is an extension of Johnson County Library's exhibitions program, which brings the work of the best local visual artists to the walls and spaces of Johnson County Library art galleries. Our new season of local art at the library began with the new year and will run until April 21st. Check our website for complete information about who's showing where and for interviews with all of our artists at jocolibrary.org/events/exhibitions. Our guest today is Jeff Tamblyn. As a photographer, Jeff Tamblyn has been juried into 3 public shows at separate venues and won a Best Photography Award in a competition at the Kansas City Gallery Images. His work continues to evolve around blending altered photographs with unorthodox narratives. Tamblyn states, these are his words, "Finding the poetry in everyday scenes is a mission of all photographers. And my way is to work with longer exposures that capture motion. The resultant intentional blur, enhanced by painstaking digital manipulation, creates delightful contradictions, a physical reality that's relentlessly temporal and subjective, and simultaneously corporeal and ethereal. I find the effect distancing, as though I'm seeing through the eyes of a scientist from another planet, and at the same time profoundly moving, as repeated viewings provide a deepening sense of moment and intention." Jeff Tamblyn's photographic work is currently on display at the Corinth Library, now until April 21st. Jeff Tamblyn, welcome to Artists in Sight.
Thank you very much. A pleasure to be here, Brian.
Yeah, we've got some interesting things to talk about, and the viewers will be able to see on their screen some examples of your work as we go along here. So now, my first question for you is, for those who haven't yet seen the work on display at the Corinth Library, describe for us what they can expect to see.
Okay. Oh, and let me throw in one little correction. Your information on me needs a little bit of augmentation. I'm actually in 2 shows right now, but I was in 2 other shows that just closed. So recently I was in a total of 4 shows at once, and my entire record of exhibitions is more like 10 exhibitions.
Okay.
So just want to throw that in. I'm really happy to be at Corinth. It's a terrific little space. The light's very nice for to show off the work, and I really enjoyed putting stuff up over there. That's just been a lot of fun. What people will see, I mean, I think the description of it that you read is pretty good, but I like to use long exposures as a photographer, and I still call myself a photographer, even though probably some people would argue that, say, digital artist or something. But I use long exposures, sometimes well over a second, to create blur. And I'll do this either by holding the camera really still and letting the subjects move in front of the camera, or else if it's a still subject, I'll actually move the camera. And there's a lot of different techniques for how you move the camera. This is called intentional camera movement. If you're on Instagram, if a viewer, one of the viewers of this is on Instagram, they might try, if they want to see more examples of it, they can put in the search bar #ICM, and they'll get a whole lot of different examples of intentional camera movement photography. It's pretty fun, and the way photographers use those ranges incredibly broadly. and the subjects all range really broadly too. But people seem to like the way it looks. I know I do. That's why I get interested in it. I just like the sort of softer and sort of much more nebulous look of these photographs. The specificity of the image is kind of taken away. And not I don't want to compare myself to great painters at all, but it's the same kind of art theory that was used in the Impressionistic era, the Impressionist movement, where you take away some of the specificity of what people are seeing and let their minds develop a little more of a narrative. It's sort of a more participatory thing when the images aren't literal. So yeah, I like to make things that are dreamlike and sort of surreal, sometimes more abstract, sometimes a little bit less. Usually in all my pieces, there's at least something that's pretty literal, if not, a lot of it. The piece that's on the screen right now is called Stroll, and it's compared to a lot of what I do, this is pretty literal. You can really tell what's going on, but it does take a minute to sort of sink into the picture and feel it.
How did you find your way to this style? How long have you been taking photographs like this? And how did you get started in photography, just in general?
The style of it, I'm sort of proud of myself about the style of this. I have a sense of ownership about it because I took a blurry picture when I was vacationing in New York in 2018. And it was a pretty cool picture, I thought, because it was a little blurry. It was sort of a skyline picture of New York. And it was taken up in Harlem. And it's from a very high floor of a building, the 11th floor. You get a great view of Midtown in the distance, but also just a lot of windows in these apartment buildings with different colors of light and curtains. And I liked the soft edges, and I liked how everything was a little bit on a slant. The picture came out so that it was just slightly crooked. And I really liked it. And I showed it to some friends, and at first they were like, well, yeah, it'll be even better once you learn how to control your camera. It was like, yeah. I think I like this. I think I'm going to do more of it. And then I just started, peeling out and trying to do more and more, figure out how to use the blur and what it was for. Sometimes it was from moving the camera. And then I became a little more curious about that on Instagram, and I found a lot of artists are doing similar things. I think my work is pretty distinctive among people who are using this style, but there are, as I said, many, many artists out there doing the same thing, really, literally thousands. It's getting to be a big.
And what about the camera or cameras that you use?
Oh, that's not really important. You can do this. Yeah. You can do this with your iPhone if you have there's like apps you can download that will hold long exposures, and you can move your camera. I think the best way to figure out how to do that, frankly, is just to do it. So if people are interested in trying it, they can also, if they have a DSLR or some other kind of camera, they can also just set their camera, like mine is a Canon, so there's a TV setting, which means time value, and the camera figures out everything else automatically as far as exposure based on what the exposure time is. So if I set it for a second, the camera makes adjustments. Now I still have to use like an ND filter on the front of the camera to keep it from getting blown out. The picture will just go white if I'm shooting, for example, in daylight or with a lot of light. So, but I'm sorry, but I probably missed part of your question there. Oh, go ahead.
No, I one of my questions is just your interest in photography in general, and how that started.
Oh yeah, well, I've been really kind of taking pictures all my life. I got started on it when I was in early adolescence, and I didn't have a good camera, but I found some of those pictures recently in an envelope, and they were motion studies. They were like, intentionally blurred when I was 13 years old. So I don't know why I was doing that. I must have seen
Hmm.
somebody taking, motion blur pictures in a magazine or something. But they're all fine art experiment pictures that I was taking even then. So I guess I haven't changed much in that regard. I gave photography a little bit of time then, but I went into theater and filmmaking and writing, and um, that really took over my artistic life for a long time. And I only really got back into photography when I was living in New York, which, if you've been to New York, is easy to imagine. It's an incredibly photogenic place. But I moved to New York for about 3 years in 2014, and I just started taking pictures again with my phone. The cameras on those phones are just getting better and better and better. And I shot a lot of pictures in New York on the phone. And when I moved back home in 2016, I bought myself a camera, a DSLR. And that's when I started getting very serious about taking pictures and, trying to become um, a fine art photographer with a practice and a sort of a business at it.
What um, tell us about your tell us more about your creative process. So I'm interested in how do you choose which images you want to show? Do you end up taking a lot of different pictures and then select the best one, or is it more maybe more intuitive than that? And then printing your work. What does that process look like for you?
Okay. Um, yes, it's very intuitive. Um, I would say it's guided almost completely by intuition. There's very little logic and darn little planning involved in this. And the result is that I take literally hundreds of pictures. I think I have right now, I use a program called Lightroom. That's an Adobe program to file all my pictures and keep them in order. And I think I have 18,000 pictures, which is like a career for
Wow.
a lot of
Yeah.
artists and photographers. But I'm not, not all of those are anything you'd ever want to see. It's hard to go through and winnow out the ones that you're not going to use, because you might come back 6 months or a year or two later to a picture you didn't like, and suddenly you're interested in it. Um, the my way of looking at things has always been as sort of an outsider. I always have felt like kind of an outsider in my life, and I always feel like I'm sort of an anthropologist who's studying a foreign civilization, even when I'm home. And so I look for opportunities to document things and see what kind of drives them. And I also mostly look for stuff that has movement in it. So that there's several series on my website having to do with motion study and different places. And one of the things that I have going on right now is I'm very interested in rodeo, especially in the small towns. Of course, that's a really movement, thing. There's a lot of
Yeah.
action in that. And it's pretty violent, but um, I find it really interesting in a kind of an oddly spiritual way, rodeo. And uh, I have been going out to the little towns, and by little I mean towns smaller than 1,000 in population. And many of those towns have rodeos or county fairs. That's another theme of my work. And um, in those venues, I find a lot of interesting movement, a lot of color, a lot of character from people, and also just those little towns. Right now I'm just specializing in Kansas. That's where I live, and the state that I most identify with. And these little towns, a lot of them are in peril. They're not doing well. So these big events, these big annual events, sometimes are the biggest thing for the town. And I find that really fascinating. Their connection to the events and how the events look and feel, and sort of how they reflect what um, the um, the life is like for those rural populations.
When you are selecting images that you want to share, do you add anything to them, or are the photographs basically as they are, or is there
Yeah,
anything added to them afterwards?
yes, there is. I'll take now. I rarely do like that image that's on the screen right now. Was a perfect example of what I was going to say. This is actually a picture taken on the Country Club Plaza, and
Mm.
in the initial picture, you can see a lot more of the plaza. It's on 47th Street, looking west from not Central, but one street east of Central. I can't remember what that would be. And you're about a block and a half from the fountain with all the horses in it, over there, the Miller Nichols Fountain or the J.C. Nichols Fountain. And so you're looking east toward, say, the art museum, and you could see a lot more in that picture. But I found the picture was more fascinating when I started to, add some cloudy effects to it. So I continued to do that and keep the light. And it also made the light change quite a bit when I was digitally working over this picture. And I wanted to keep some things, like you can see the tail lights of the car that are that's in the picture. You
Mm.
can't quite see the headlights on the left of cars coming, but you can't quite make out what they are. You can see the light, and then up above in the cloudy area, those are street lights and lights coming off of the buildings that are around us. So this picture, I think what I wanted to do there was to add some more mystery to it. It was a pretty misty night, so there's a lot of that in the air anyway, and I kind of built on that to make it into something a lot more sort of mysterious and perhaps lonely.
Mm. That's interesting. So thank you for taking us a little bit behind the scenes of how these photographs come to be.
Sure.
What I want to talk about is you provided some. You've got some book recommendations here. You have an author and a TV series, and I was wondering if you could talk about one of these or any of these, and how they've inspired you, maybe just in life or maybe in some way your work,
Okay.
photographic.
Sapiens is a book that's hugely popular right now. A lot of people are reading it. It's actually been out for several years, but my brother told me about it, and I got it because he said it was kind of life changing, and uh, it's not a self help book or anything. It's a book about the history of humankind. It goes back to way back in prehistoric times, and this amazing Israeli historian um, he points to a lot of developments that we always kind of revere in human development, like agriculture, and points out that the beginning of agriculture in humanity was actually the end of thousands and thousands of species that we wiped out through agricultural efforts, which I thought was a real shocker. Um, but his whole take on humankind is it's probably a little darker than most, but it's also incredibly interesting. And well, as I said earlier, I feel like I'm a little bit of an anthropologist. I think if I hadn't gone into the arts, I think I might have gone into anthropology because I really like the study of of just cultures and languages and the way people interact with each other and how that takes a different shape depending upon where you are in the world. And so that's a fascinating book, and it kind of fed that need for me. Anything that helps me along and gives me some knowledge in that area kind of leads me to the next thing photographically. Bryson's another terrific author, and he just is one of those guys I can't put down when I start reading his books, because he will take a simple subject like living at home and take it apart in ways that help you to really understand the history of humanity, and not just how we live, but what the general economic climate and so forth, the general social climate do for our lives in general, and how they've changed our civilization over eons. He's a fascinating writer. His history, I can't remember the exact title of the book, but he's got a history of science out, and boy, that's just a knockout book. That is an amazing book. I think I was, well, when I answered this question for you in the run up to this, I think I picked his Dark Materials because I was catching up with the series, or it's, in the pandemic, it's like you're always looking for something to watch on TV, right? And I like series, and if they're good. And this is a fun series that is all about, it takes place on another planet. So that, because it's different and it's a parallel world to ours, that's sort of fascinating to me. I feel like my pictures reflect the notion of creating parallel worlds, or worlds in which you can see a physical self in addition to sort of an ethereal self.
Hmm. All right. Well, thank you, Jeff. And I was wondering what you've got coming up. What are you looking forward to, and what's on your horizon?
It's going to be a busy year.
Yeah.
I've got another show. The show at Corinth runs until April 21st, and then I've got a month-long show with two other artists at the Tim Murphy Gallery in the Merriam, the brand new Merriam Community Center. It's a beautiful place, and they have set up one of their kind of major hallways as the art gallery there, and it's a wonderful location, tons of light, great place to display pictures. And these two other photographers I'm going to be working with are photographers with a lot more experience than I do in completely different styles, and that should be a lot of fun. Also just got into the Artist Inc. program, which is an 8-week seminar to help artists of all disciplines. There's dancers and actors and writers and potters and all different kinds of people involved in this. And it's basically to allow networking between these different types of disciplines, but also to help you figure out, how to be better at the business part of your artistic practice. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm honored to be in it. It was a pretty competitive process.
Yeah. Congratulations on that. That does sound exciting. So that it'll be interesting to see how your work progresses on your approach to selling your work and presenting your work.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to be shooting all summer too out there at the small towns for with county fairs and rodeos. I'll hopefully the pandemic will relent a little bit. It'll be a lot easier to get out there and be among crowds of people.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, Jeff, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you. And if you would like to learn more about Jeff Tamblyn and his work, you can go to jefftamblynphotography.com. It's right up there on the screen. And his Instagram handle, JP or I'm sorry, at JP Tamblyn. And if you would like to get a hold of me and Brian Bold, you can contact me at volb@jocolibrary.org. And of course, the Johnson County Library website is jocolibrary.org. You can get more information about the other exhibitions on display at our branch art galleries. Thank you, Jeff. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Great pleasure for me too. Thank you, Brian.